I like that font, Kel. That's a nice font. What is that?
For my comic, that's my handwriting.
You have lovely
It's
handwriting.
very
Who made that
nice.
font?
I have turned my handwriting into a font, so
Imagine
I
having
figured.
$40 million free and clear, early retirement in your 30s, the ability to do whatever you want, whenever
You can
you
make that
want,
money
for the
grow
rest of your
without doing
life.
anything.
And somehow that's not enough. Hi, I'm Spike.
I'm Kel. I was gonna sing, but I got distracted by the fact that I don't know who Spike is talking about. I'm not up to
Orange
date on
City.
world news, financial crimes.
Crimes. It is crimes. It's all crimes.
Mike is enjoying like the fuckhole that is the scamming.
Anyway,
space.
we have special guests this week.
Yes. Oh, am I
Hi.
quiet again? Sorry, everybody. I'll try and fix
Get
that.
closer to your mic.
Yeah, but anyway, we have special guests this week.
Hello.
Tracy and Fable from Lackadaisy are here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves while I try and fix my mic again.
Go ahead, Fable.
Hi, I'm Fable Siegel. I'm the showrunner for Lacadaisy, and I herd cats for a living. If you hear bird noises at all around me, it's because I live on Island Ubalar. So forgive me if you hear a rooster going off or something.
I am Tracy. I'm the creator of Lackadaisy, and I'm working on the series, the animated series, as something like an art director, and also a cat herder and a merch designer and all of the things. Someday I will return to making comics, which is where my heart is. But also the animated series is
My
a
brain
great joy.
is
So
I have the same yearning. Like I have put my own comic on hiatus for years, and I want to get back to it so bad.
So before we went live, Fable was complimenting the font that I use on my comics, which is my handwriting. And I got a custom font made, and it's a smart font. So that means when I type multiple E's next to each other or multiple T's, they're slightly different, so it still looks like I did it by hand. So like if I zoom in,
that's really nice. What service do you
Yeah.
use for that?
yeah.
I don't think you used a service. I think you used a person.
I hired a person who.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah.
It's like I did the same thing for the Lackadaisy font, but it's not nearly as appealing looking as your font here, and one of the reasons maybe because of the uniformity of the glyphs.
I'll just secretly type how much it cost me.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, everyone, let me know if this is better. This should be better. I did the same thing.
That's honestly not bad considering like fontography is like and the software, even Fontographer, is intimidating as hell and expensive and
I mean, I would love to learn it. I would love to make my own fonts. I've been really enjoying. So, if you guys don't know, I've gotten deeply into fountain pens. Spike, if you want to have a good time on Blue Sky, for anybody who's on Blue Sky, just do this. Just say it into the ether on Blue Sky. I'm trying to get into fountain pens. Can anybody recommend me a good beginner pen? And then watch as like 15 people pile into your replies with like the nicest suggestions and trying to find out what kind of writing style you like and that kind of thing. The fountain pen Blue Sky community is very active, and like Neil Gaiman is just one of them. He just on Blue Sky among fountain pen people, Neil Gaiman is just another guy. That's what they're like.
How about now, folks? Do I sound normal now? I'm just trying to get this dialed in. The problem is I unplug my mic like every time I'm not using it. And when I plug it back in, it tries to reset itself to super duper quiet. And I don't know why, and I can't get it to stop. But if this is good...
When I'm usually the one who's hosting our streams.
Yeah, the one who's hosting always seems to have issues with like being too soft through Discord.
Because like we're filtered through Discord, but Spike is probably coming in directly through OBS or whatever.
Yeah.
So you have to. We hear you just fine because Discord's automatic settings are usually fine.
All right.
But
So the font I've had it for I think 2 years now. and I like it. I have some like nitpicks that are more my fault than the guy who made the font's fault. Yeah, so I might pay him to tweak it, because I realized I didn't put a bold version of letters. And
now you have to like rasterize it and give it an outline every time you gotta bold it.
Yeah. So no, I just do the bold by hand, or I write in all caps.
Okay.
I cannot participate in the in the digital font conversation.
No, your font's good too. Like,
well, no, I don't have a font.
She handwrites it.
Your handwriting.
And so I was handwriting it and realized I make too many spelling errors, and I need to copy paste my script, so that way someone can proofread my script before I start lettering.
Right. Yeah. For folks who are unaware, because we have more folks here than usual tonight, I am doing a comic right now called Lacada, which I have started referring to as Fable Mouse and the Keebler Elves Learn About Communism. That's kind of the elevator pitch. It's very goofy. That's not exactly accurate what's going on. But
what's the brush you're using?
Oh, these are brushes that are from, gosh, what's his name? Oh no.
Friendon.
Thank you. There's
Which ones?
There's a very cool dude named Friendon who makes a lot of really good brushes, and I'm using his brushes.
I think he turned out to be a weirdo.
Oh, is he bad? I don't know.
I mean, I already have all his brushes, so like can't do anything about it now. It's more yeah, I think he said some weird shit. I have vague memories of that. So
when he said something silly about like, oh, you can afford Adobe, just do a spot illustration for a magazine.
Oh God, I hope that's not the case.
And it was like, and everybody pointed out, it's like, that is a
really privileged thing to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stuff like that where he basically is
clueless.
Like said a bunch of
that was it. I know Kyle Webster recently left Adobe.
No, it was Webster. That's right. Sorry, Friendon. I gave you.
Okay.
I think that was just like an innocently out of touch. Like
I didn't know that Friendon told anything though.
No, I haven't heard anything, but I know Kyle did, like, to Kyle's credit, did resign from Adobe, and I think it seemed to line up with that whole thing, that whole new agreement they have now, where they have access to all your content.
I hate that so much.
He's like, no, that's my livelihood.
Yeah.
A lot of, like, apparently even, like, people work for Adobe are like, wait, no, this would literally put our business out of business if you keep going with this. And they're like, we don't care.
Yeah. Like,
it's more red
NDAs
flags
and all that.
Yeah, it's just more red flags of, like, the problems at the top. Like, the reason why you left Kickstarter, Spike, wasn't just because of NFTs. It's that's a red flag for bigger issues.
Yeah.
Even if they back down, it's part of a bigger problem. Yeah, there's a thing that I talk about a lot. Like, I don't want to get into, like, Kickstarter too much, because that is well-trodden territory for me, and I'm sure people are sick of hearing about it. You can talk about this in general. Yeah, they really, really fucking disappointed me and let me down. But there is this sort of idea of a founders era. And the founders era at Kickstarter is really, really, really over. They are not kind of the lithe, willing to try anything scrappy, experimental company anymore. They are very much ensconced. They're dug in. They're beholden to people, and they do things that 5 years before they did them, I could have never pictured them doing them, and that's too bad. That sucks. But yeah, that's what happens when kind of the founders era expires, when it's over, when you become an institution as opposed to an upstart.
Yeah, and then finance guys are running the show.
And finance guys are running the show.
Not the people who had the initial passion for the idea.
Yeah, like Nancy. Yeah.
It's an ongoing issue. You have a lot of people with money who are super out of touch, making decisions about businesses and going, I know how to business. I have money and a business degree. And it's like, I feel like that means you're the least qualified person sometimes. Yeah,
there's just a lot going on over there that I'm sure people who have Patreons could probably sympathize with. Like, decisions are being made where you're just like, why though? Like, that doesn't make any sense on the surface. And when you scratch the surface, you're like, oh, this is shareholder shit.
They have been tasked with unending, continuous growth,
Yeah.
and their existence is threatened if they aren't delivering that. So they do weird things to try to appease the owners, and or, I mean the people who own the shares of the company. So.
Yeah, we're all kind of familiar at this point now with the lingo, FOMO. We know what that means. It's worth noting that a lot of people who are kind of in the venture capital space, they are inflicted with terrible and permanent FOMO. And a lot of that is they go to bed crying every night because they were not the people who invested like $1 million or however much in Instagram and then cashed out to like 20 million, which is
but
what
that
happened.
didn't even satisfy them. Like the people who did that kind of thing seem to also be circling this hole. It's like they're chasing a high.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's not about the money. Like I used to think that it's like, oh, money runs the world. It's like now I'm starting to feel like if it was just money was motivation, that people would be making different decisions. But I think it's more like treating money as like a numbers game, is like, this is how much clout I have. Kind of like the people who act like your follower number or your subs number on social media means that like you're a famous person, and it's like, no.
Well, I think it's I mean, bottom line, it's power and the perception of being powerful.
Yeah. Muta says number go up. Exactly.
Yeah.
Some form of social clout. I think that's one reason why these guys get really confused when people are like, actually, we don't like you. And they're like, I don't understand though, but I'm rich.
Yeah.
Like Cybertruck owners. It's like, yes, we do know that you spent $100,000 on this stupid truck. That's why we're making fun of you.
Yeah. But although this kind of segues nicely into, if folks who are here a little early, they saw what the rolling banner on the wait screen was, which is, I'm still kind of in perpetual shock for folks who don't like kind of...
Before you get into that, Spike, you said what you are working on, but you did not let me say what I was working on.
I'm so sorry. Go for it, Cal. Go for it.
I am drawing a comic called The City Between, which is about gay werewolves in the future. So right now it's about a vampire. The vampire story's wrapping up in like 10 pages or so. Then I'm back to the werewolves. Anyway, you can now talk about financial crimes.
You can talk about your brushes, too.
I do just want to intercept and say we have some people on our crew who we definitely need to introduce to your werewolf comics, because...
Oh, for sure.
I think most people on crew, maybe.
Yeah. But some specific ones in particular.
But
looking at you, certain rabbit.
Yeah, but for folks who care, I'm going to go ahead and review, because I get asked this question when there are new folks in here sometimes. So the brushes I am using, they are by, this is how you spell his name, Friendon. He is on Twitter. I'm pretty sure. I don't really go over to Twitter much these days, but if he is there, he will be there under this name. The brush that I am using to ink, I guess you could say, is called the 2H Real Pencil 2.
That one.
The brush that I use to letter, which is where I get all this from. The brush that I use to letter is a serious cartoonist joke. It's called the Pigman Mycon. Ha ha ha. If you're a cartoonist, you know.
I get it, yeah.
The Pigman Mycon. That's the lettering brush. And when I want to do really, really slick, sharp lines, there aren't really any here. I like the kind of crunchiness that the 2H Real Pencil 2 gives. But if I want to do really slick, sharp lines, I do hairpin sable, and that's what this line is. At this resolution, it may not look like a huge difference between those three pens, but trust me, they exist. So if you like those, Friendon sells his brush bundles very reasonably priced. I'm pretty sure he might still be on Gumroad. I don't know if he is. A lot of people left Gumroad for obvious reasons. But if he's not on Gumroad, if you go to his Twitter, I'm sure you will find the link, and he will be happy to sell you his brushes. And I
could suggest a brush set to you. My favorite real media brushes for Clip Studio Have you ever heard of the Daub set?
I have not.
Look up DAUB like brushes on Google, and it should pop right up. You can buy a mega bundle, and it will constantly update for free forever.
Oh yeah, Friendon does that. His stuff updates for free forever too.
But these guys, they have way more real media stuff. And it is just glorious textures, and they work really well at huge scales too.
I forgot to say hello to everyone. Hello, Pencil Ears. Hello, Nudist. Hello, Plot. Hello, Mr. Flame 505. Hello, Miss Alice Muir. Oh my God, so many people. Hello, Just Plain Miss. Thank you everyone for Aether Tales. What's up? Bird Wizard. What's up? Susan B. Daryl. What's up? Net Fisher. What's up? Oh my God, so many people came. Hello, everyone. Slap the bass.
People watching now.
World War II enthusiast. Same.
And what's then on my Twitch, I have Nightly Elf.
Nightly Elf, is that the brush?
No, that's the person watching. Hi, Nightly Elf.
Oh, okay.
Even though you never actually put it in your skeets, Spike. I do mirror the stream on Twitch. I do. Theme of the night, Spike doesn't love me.
Never. But yeah. And again, I have to do this sometimes. I just want to prove really quickly. No, this is not a font. This is just me. This is hand lettering here. And I am never going to be one of those people that shit on people who don't do this. It's totally fine if you don't hand letter. Some of us are actually on deadlines. Some of us actually live with the expectations of others. And some of us just don't want to fucking do it. But I personally have never liked how automatic fonts look, including fonts made with my own handwriting. So that's just me. Personal preference.
I've gotten really into traditional inking lately. I'm starting to think that I want to traditionally ink my comic once I get back to it. Because I'm like, I can ink well on the computer, but I don't enjoy it. But I can ink well in real life and do it faster because I'm not trying to undo everything.
So that's what I do is I pencil digitally and then I print it out and then I ink traditionally because it's faster if I can move my layouts around.
Yes.
But if I'm inking, it's faster because then I won't undo everything and get stuck in a perfectionist cycle.
Oh my God, the worst.
The Worm Motel has arrived. Hey, friend.
Fable is talking about their new cat.
My cat, who there's been a real bad flea problem in the area. If anybody's been following me online, you know that I've been trying to take care of a bunch of feral cats, and I don't know if my dog brought them in or if it was the feral cats. Could have been both. Could have been either. But he acquired my own cat acquired fleas, which meant he acquired worms, and he now is full of worms, and I have to take him to the vet, and he's acting like there's nothing wrong. Even though I saw a worm wiggle out of his ass this morning, I'm like, the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, years and years ago when I got my puppy had worms, and I would have been assured the puppy had been dewormed, but I guess that was not the case.
Yeah,
sometimes it takes a couple tries if the worm infestation is bad, or they have fleas on them still after they've been dewormed, and if they eat the flea transmits tapeworm to them because they eat the fleas as they groom, right? So then they end up with tapeworm.
We're trying to we're getting him defleed. These fleas are freaking stubborn. And he's got a really short coat because he's a Cornish Rex, so he's got the short little curly fur, so I can see every bug on you, and it's horrifying. You sweet little triangle man. No, you baby boy. He's so happy right now. He has no idea anything's wrong.
Also,
not a care in the world.
Apropos of nothing, everybody should ink in vectors. The end. So y'all were talking about
I'm using
analog.
A paper.
No, we should ink in vectors. Everybody should ink in vectors at all times.
No.
It's the best thing because it's infinitely scalable. It's the only thing in this world that's infinitely scalable. Don't let tech bros tell you anything otherwise.
Vectors. Yeah, it's just been guys, just invest in Illustrator.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously.
Infinite scaling. There
I have a funny story about that. So, Illustrator files are called AI. That is their
womp womp.
So someone was talking about, I need you to upload the AI files at their job, and everyone was like, what the hell are you talking about? We don't use AI. It's like, I meant Illustrator.
Yep. Yep,
You're a
yep, yep.
perfect little triangle man. Yes, you are. Sorry, I can't help it. He's really cute. So the internet is gonna have to listen to me talk baby talk to my cat because he is the best creature. He's a good
Understandable.
husband.
I am never opposed to pet love. But yeah. Oh, Amanda's in here. Hi, Amanda.
And
Yeah, but
No.
this is reminiscent to something I saw. That whole sort of like Illustrator files being called AI, and having nothing to do with the current interpretation of AI. There was somebody on the social medias recently who was discussing possibly submitting something to Iron Circus, and it had the word AI in the title. And my first instinct was to just link them to the actual Iron Circus submission page that says like no AI content allowed. But I'm like, wait, I don't know for sure that's what this means. So don't immediately jump down some stranger's throat. Like, be civilized for once in your life. Don't just assume.
some people online I've seen even just like assume that if something's at a certain quality level, it must be AI. I think Sylphie got accused of being a robot the other day.
Yep.
Yes.
Sylphie.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm disappointed.
Yeah,
in you,
like
Iron
I
Circus."
know, like
Yeah.
there was some dialogue the other day I was seeing around the Smiling Friends episode because Joel Haver contributed to it. And
Ah.
if you don't know who Joel Haver is, he got very big on YouTube by doing animations that are basically done through EbSynth or EBSynth, which is AI, but it is not the kind of AI that everybody rails against. It's the kind of AI
It's like
that
you have existing footage, you give the footage one frame that you doctor yourself, and it will try to pair that one frame to the frames that you provide. It's all like you have to upload it, and it does
right,
some
and it's
very
like
awkward thinking for
yeah.
you.
So people were like, some people were knee jerk reacting to like, oh, it's AI. And other people were saying, oh, it looks good because it's AI. See, AI is great. And it's like, no, but it's his own art and his own footage that he's combining.
Yeah.
He's not stealing somebody else's work, for, using a data set that's
Yeah.
like somewhere else.
Yeah,
like this is
Like, so there's a YouTuber I like called Hello Future Me. And like, I think like a year ago, he did a deep dive into AI, the pros and cons. And he was talking about like, okay, so like sometimes you just need a lot of stuff like in a background. And for an indie animator, that is a lot of work, especially if it's like a real quick pan across a bunch of stuff. Like, it's because it's never stopping on any of those things. You don't necessarily need it to be super refined, but it does need to look somewhat convincing. And so, like, if you're training AI on your own artwork, that could be very helpful, speeding up the process. And he's like, so that's one advantage, but obviously, like, that's someone who is interested in doing that cannot do that now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because
I wish that is what we could even make use of. It's like, if I could just train a thing for myself, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like stealing everybody else's work to make like,
yeah, so that is a thing that he went over, and then he also went over whenever he also, because he did like a lot of research on it, he did go over that any AI bro that is like oh, it would be too hard to not steal everything. That's
a lie.
That's a lie, because the people who have, I forget which AI company it was, he was like, they have their artwork AI, but they also make a music AI, and the music AI doesn't steal from everybody because they know that they will get hit with a giant lawsuit from music companies if they try. So they're just using this excuse to steal 2D art because they know that 2D artists and illustrators don't have the funds to hit them where it hurts the way the music industry does.
And this is actually kind of segueing into a thing I've discussed before on this show, which is the idea of the people in charge. They're not kind of in this for the 20-year haul. They want to get this done and cash out and retire at 30 after selling it to somebody who then will contend with all of its issues, like the fact that it's trained on stolen data, which everyone makes these doom and gloom kind of prophesizations. But if I'm going to be real with you, no, they are not going to reformat the copyright system so that things a computer makes will be defendable and copyrightable. That doesn't make sense and would require the undoing of a century plus of law. That is not going to be a thing that happens no matter how much money the AI bros have. And they aren't even hoping for something like that to happen. What they're hoping for is to bring it back around again to Instagram, is to sell it to Microsoft or Meta or Alphabet, cash out, and have it be their problem. They're not planning to be here in 20 years working on AI. They have a very short-term goal.
No. They also like, I think something that a lot of people online need to remember is when they repeat the things that the hype men say.
Yes.
It's like, oh no, everybody, we're going to lose our jobs because the hype men say this. It's like, no, that's the line they're selling to the stockholders.
Yes, that is a salesperson. That's a salesperson.
Do not take their words at face value, because the fact that you're panicking about that is also a sales tactic.
Yeah, were you not around for the people going, yeah, in the future, all art is going to be NFTs?
Well, so it's gonna take our job / steal our job. That isn't 100% hype, because like if you talk to people who work as translators, everyone got really the same people who are hyped about AA now got really hyped about machine translation 10 years ago.
It will fuck things over, but just not in the way that the hype men are promising.
And so what it did do is it got all these companies to try machine translating, and then when they did go back to people, like their translation fees and payouts were cut in half, basically.
Yes, that's the real problem. It's not that AI is going to replace you, it's the ways in which it enables labor abuse.
Yeah,
which is an old story, unfortunately. Like how in my field, they're trying to tell folks at YAAAAAY who are going to be renegotiating their contracts this year, oh well, you can't say or do anything or ask for much because we're just going to replace you all with AI, which is bullshit. They can't actually do that because they would have just done it already. It was like, why threaten anybody with something you're going to do, right? Why not just do it? But it's a great way to scare people who don't know that like Sora's videos are like actually
there's a lot of hand editing going on in there, and actual it was not like they were just kind of mum about how it was actually done until a couple of different journalists independently discovered actually this footage is a lot of like hand done work in addition to some AI. And so it's not nearly as advanced as they want you to think it is at this moment in time.
Also that the difference between image generation versus auto translation is that most people aren't able to tell that the auto translation is bad because they don't know the language in the first place. But
I mean, you can understand when you get nonsense.
To a degree, but then it also fucks up in tiny ways where you won't know unless you know somebody knows the language. So we have for our show, we actually have real translators working on stuff because like auto translation is going to be trash. It's going to miss a lot of the word.
It misses context. Like you can't tell it. We want it to use old-timey words, not modern slang or parlance, and like things like that.
It's gonna make one character come off as way more polite than they are.
There's like turns of phrase don't translate one-to-one, and you need somebody to catch that. It's like, okay, so this idiom or this saying exists in English, but it doesn't exist in Spanish. It doesn't make any sense in Spanish, so we have to come up with an alternative.
Like the more you know, the more you realize that it's actually trash. But for ignorant people, they didn't know any better, so I think that's one reason why I was able to take over that space. But in image generation, it doesn't matter what your language is, you can see that the guy has too many fingers, or that like you can't iterate this shit. It has problems.
But that's just making me think of there's a discussion between translators about how do you translate raining like cats and dogs. raining cats and dogs to other languages. Like, what's the equivalent idiom? Yeah, it's interesting how many different idioms there are out there that like you don't think about. One thing is so City Between takes place in a world that's not our world. And I'm trying not to do any pop culture references or like literary references when the characters are talking. And that is so hard because so much of our idioms and like common sayings come from Shakespeare.
Yeah. This is also reminiscent. I've been teaching myself Japanese for like a year and a half now, and it's a combination like of Duolingo and quizzes every day and WaniKani and watching stuff on YouTube and trying to translate it as I watch it and being very bad at that. But the sort of talking about the intricacies and the subtleties of language makes me think of one video I stumbled across, which is talking about one of the fun things about Japanese. There's basically no profanity in Japanese. There's no like motherfucking shit in Japanese. No matter how many animes you watch and someone goes ska like that, like, and they translate it as shit or damn, that's not really what that means. But the video I'm talking about, the person who was hosting it was basically talking about how to refer to yourself in Japanese. And it was like a really great, wild demonstration of how like a machine could not do this. This is something that a person needs to do. And what it was is like, okay, so imagine your name is Ken. The 3 most common ways of referring to yourself would be like, watashi wa ken desu, ore wa ken desu, boku wa ken desu. And those are 3 different sort of really subtle, hard to quantify levels of politeness and familiarity. And, you know, some people would use all 3. Some people basically decide they're a boku. Some people basically decide they're an ore. If you've ever watched like a goofy anime and someone is very self-important, they might be Ore-sama, which is like the great and powerful I, which no one really uses like seriously. The way a person says like, I don't want you around here. It could be a polite way to say it, and it could be like a shockingly rude way to say it, and it's all in the I. And like the person hosting the video was like, just hang around Japanese people for a couple of months and just kind of get a feel if you're a boku, an ore, or a watashi. You'll get a general idea. You know, if you're a young girl, chances are you're going to be an atashi, which is informal Japanese. And you only should use atashi with friends and not watashi, but you can use watashi if you want. And it's like, again, Google Translate cannot do this.
Yeah, we've had some of these discussions with Abby doing the Japanese translations for Lackadaisy, and it's like remarkably complicated contextually, like how you refer to other people, how you refer to yourself.
Yep.
And thinking that a machine could figure that out, or an AI could figure that out at every turn. I mean, it can kind of maybe get there sometimes with contextual.
It doesn't really understand context.
Yeah.
Like machines are just, they're just going like, what's the probability that X is the next thing? And it's like, context doesn't matter to it. It's like, the only context it knows is like, what digit is next to another one.
Yeah.
It's, and it has a very short memory for anything.
Which is why, the smart font I use works like a machine can do that, because it's just looking, is this E next to another E? We need to make them look different.
It's a very simple math equation in that case.
Yes. What I really like about it is my font is the capital I only has serifs if it's by itself.
That's nifty.
Okay.
And proper lettering. A lot of people don't realize that's proper lettering.
Though I actually realized that I don't do that. So when I get it remade, I'm going to like tell him
do it wrong,
should only
please.
have serifs if I'm writing in all caps. If it's because the reason serifs are only on the capital I is because old-timey comics and superhero comics now write in all caps. Personally, I hate it when stuff is written in all caps.
Really?
It is harder to read if you're dyslexic.
Oh, wow. I would have thought it would be easier.
No, because part of what you're mixing up is the shape of a word.
Let's see.
So I'm gonna in lowercase, cat and eat are the same quote unquote shape.
Okay.
See, okay.
But cat and dog are a different shape.
Got it.
But if everything's all caps, cat and dog are the same shape.
Oh, I get you now. Wow, that never occurred to me.
Now I can picture what the issue with dyslexia is a little bit better, because I didn't realize that's how it worked. I thought it was like
that's part of how it works. That's like one thing. And so it's basically as much as everyone gives Comic Sans shit for being ugly, the way it is ugly actually makes it easier to read for dyslexic people because it's inconsistent. Handwriting is actually handwritten fonts are actually easier to read. I have a font that I have downloaded. I have to be careful when I copy paste a thing because I have a Google plugin that will turn all my emails into this dyslexic font. So when I copy paste text, it will sometimes turn it into, it will copy paste the dyslexic version of the font. So that font basically weighted the letters weird, so that way you won't confuse a lowercase b and a d, because that's also part of it. So it's like, it's about the shapes of things. So like the shapes of words and the shapes of letters are what you're mixing up. I have never spelt thief correctly on the first try in my life. I always spell it wrong. I once handed someone a script I wrote where someone is a thief, and they were like, I cannot believe that you typed this and you just consistently spelt it wrong the entire time.
Thank you, Spike.
No, I was just seeing if I could spell it right the first time.
It kind of sounds like the issue is like tracking very tiny details, like what side a line is on a smaller shape. Basically, it's like, is it over here or is it over there, and having some difficulty keeping track of that. That's interesting. Because I never heard dyslexia described that way. Usually I just hear it described as like, oh, well, I'm mixing up, left and right.
But yeah, so the font that I have only fixes one side of the dyslexia thing. Because obviously it can't change the shape of words. But I also, all caps in comics are used so that way there can be less space between the lines, which I think also makes it harder to read. So your font isn't that bad, but I get very annoyed at a lot of manga lettering, because I understand why. It's because they need to fit a longer sentence into a smaller balloon, so we might as well use all caps and have as little space between the two lines as possible. But that makes it a real pain in the ass to read.
It's also it just graphically looks a little odd. I can see people in chat mentioning I don't like. Edward says I don't like all caps because I always imagine someone yelling in my head and it gets annoying to read after a few seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, and people who don't
I would try to read Homestuck and I could not read. Once I got to the troll chapter, I just stopped because
I was like, I noped out of it. It's like I can barely read regular letters. I don't need to have the sound 8 replaced with the number 8 over and over again and try to figure out what they're saying.
It also messed with my perception of how the characters would talk, and I'm like, you're trying to have a serious conversation, but everything's leet speak, and it's and also the colors of things just made it really hard. So because I couldn't easily read it, the flow of conversations, which Homestuck is basically all conversations, just gets really exhausting. It was difficult to read in a way that was not intentional, and I fully admit this is just a me thing, but I was sitting down and trying to read it with Clint. We were like reading it aloud to each other, but once we got to the troll chapters, I was like, this is exhausting me. I just can't anymore.
Homestuck is like one of those things, and this is not me judging anyone who enjoys Homestuck. Homestuck,
No,
I bounced off Homestuck super hard, and ever since, I mean, I have a policy of if something just gets completely bullet train insano popular, like just absolutely blows up, I always think to myself, well, I should probably check it out just to see what the appeal is, so I can understand what people are into these days, what people get fucking feral for, what they foam at the mouth for, because that's a good idea, because I make media, you know, for a living, and I should probably know which way the wind's blowing. And
is that why you're getting into Skibidi Toilet?
I actually, here's the thing though, Skibidi Toilet fucking slaps. It's good shit.
Can you like send it to me, because I don't even know where to start.
Yeah,
Can you just like
absolutely.
send me a link?
Absolutely.
Where's the Five Nights at Freddy's 5-hour video essay
I
breakdown?
sat my ass down and I watched every episode of Skibidi Toilet that was available one day, and it reminded me of a webcomic, because like that, it's like that joke Shen Comics made that. Yeah, Shen Comics made that joke about, you know, first episode of a webcomic, it's just these two little dudes like, haha, we're just some little guys. Whee!
We love video games.
Final page of a webcomic is just like, one of them is lying bleeding on the floor, and the other is literally fist fighting God. Like, that's kind of what Skibidi Toilet is.
It's like
If
every
anyone, if anyone in the chat wants the dyslexic font that I use and my browser auto turns emails into, it is at dyslexicfont.com. It is free to download, and it's a plugin for almost every browser out there.
Speaking of popular, it's kind of funny to think that, like, getting the comments every so often on the YouTube of somebody going like, well, I finally decided to take a look at this, and I guess it fucks.
Yeah.
When they look at Lackadaisy stuff,
I guess
which is kind of gratifying.
Yeah, I guess it fucks. Thanks.
It's like, I hope we're not ruining anybody. It's like, I can't take a look at this because it's all over my dashboard.
Oh, that is an absolutely normal response.
It's like, I get it. It's like, I can't engage with this because everybody's raced so far ahead of me that I'm just kind of checked out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people. I will not name them because they are my friends and I love them. But there's a lot of people who came to me after Lackadaisy dropped, and they were all like, I gotta say, I didn't think it would work. but y'all did it. I thought for sure this wouldn't be anything I'd like. I thought you were wasting your time and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But no, I guess after all, you do know what you're doing.
There's a reason why people call, like, Lackadaisy is like the it's like the entry, the gateway drug into furry. It's like so many people, like, they're it's like the running gag, and everybody does this, and they do this independent of each other, is, I'm not a furry, but
yeah.
and then they compliment those Catmen, or they say that Mitzi's kind of hot, or anything, and it's like, welcome to your rabbit hole. Get back to me in like 5 years when you've changed genders and you have cat ears on now.
When Beastars came out, someone drew a conveyor belt where it's normal people go in and furries come out.
Yeah. Oh god, that comic is so ugly.
I would say sorry, but I think it's funny. So
yeah.
Spike, I will not stand here while you besmirch Beastars.
No,
again.
I'm sorry. Okay, look. We have talked about this before.
Okay,
I will briefly.
beef with Brief Stars, because I've read most of Beast Complex and
my beef with Beastars is I find the actual manga, not the anime. Everyone, I enjoy the anime, but I find the manga unbearably ugly. I cannot read it. It is too ugly. I am sorry, everyone.
I've honestly looked at it, and I feel like I envy that artist because they're so loose about their drawings, and they can draw so presumably quickly.
Yeah, no doubt.
It does feel like it's
I mean,
very.
I know Manga, like it's kind of a requirement that you produce produce it
Yeah.
at a lightning speed. But
I'm just kind of impressed that somebody who's not just like another.
I'm
like,
just like, I wish I could just like loosely
Yeah.
draw a comic panel and be okay with it, but instead I overwork everything. And I'm just like,
oh, I get to bring up my favorite topic now because every time we talk about like, I wish I could be this loose and still tell my story in a way that I find satisfying. Have you ever heard of Nasty Red Dogs, Spike and Kel?
I have not.
Oh, I think you guys would really like Nasty Red Dogs. It's like, okay, so the art style starts off as, I don't want to say crude, but it's just very loose, and then it just keeps evolving as it goes, like page to page. And it might be the artist just experimenting, but honestly, it feels extremely deliberate, and sometimes it turns into a collage, and other times it's like hand-drawn on lined paper, and then I think it's like basically all digital at this point, but also the story has settled down a little bit. But the premise is, one day the moon splits in half, and all the dogs lose their skin and grow into grotesque red monsters.
Oh, you sent me a link to this.
Yes, Nasty Red Dogs. It's so good. It's like, are you someone who really loves fucked up body horror and like discussions about like dysphoria in like really extreme, like intriguing ways, and it's like magical realism abound, but with a heavy horror bent. It's like, oh, this is about complicated feelings, and it is legit. Oh, and there's like hell. There's like the Greek was like Hades, and those creatures and stuff, and they're handled so interestingly, and yeah.
Also, before we get too far from it, I learned after I decided, like, I gave Beastars, specifically the manga, the old college try, and I was like, I actually can't bear this, and I stopped reading it. I found out that the creator of Beastars is the daughter of the creator of another comic I can't physically stand, which is called Grappler Baki, and I'm like, oh, it all makes sense now.
There's a family style that you cannot stand.
I think Grappler Baki, and here's the thing, if you like Grappler Baki, again, this is not me judging you or telling you you're not allowed to like it. You are I can understand how something like that might compel people. And again, because I have to be very clear, because this is the fucking internet, I'm talking specifically about the manga, not the anime. But I find it, I am incapable of looking at it. Like, I find it literally repellent. And
you're wrong.
And you're wrong. I'm okay. It's okay. I'm allowed to be wrong. It's okay. And so when I found out the creator of Beastars was the daughter of the creator of Grappler Baki, I'm like, oh, it runs in the family then.
We have a lot of interesting connections to Beastars actually through our project, and not just the furry event. Like the guy who helped us with navigating SAG, you know, that guy Ben?
Yeah.
Like, he plays the good boy, the doggo, in Beastars, who's the friend of the wolf guy.
The golden retriever.
Yeah, and the dude who plays the wolf guy is one of the main characters in Farfetched.
Oh, cool.
Who is the and that's the show that's like I want to say it was like a cousin show, because we just have a lot of crew and friends.
We have a lot of crew overlap, and
like Ashley Nichol.
Animation is incestuous.
It is. There's only so many people who can do this.
It's
so
a
we
small
all
pool of
rely on each
people
other.
who do it. So yeah.
That's why I'm like, please, more people, please. We get so incestuous. We need new blood all the time. The blood
we don't want to be the Habsburgs of animation.
Oh,
no, it gets troubling. It's like, even if there's something that's not to my taste, I'm still happy to see it there. It's like CC Spike talking about like, oh, well, I don't like the look of Beastars, but isn't like Beastars needs to be burned from the face of the earth. It's like,
well, no,
you know, you might have
like anime Beastars. It's manga Beastars I don't like.
Anime Beastars looks amazing. It's like, that is some solid like CG cel shaded creatures.
Yeah, it's one of those things. There was another anime, maybe y'all remember it. This was a while ago though. It was, I found it kind of funny because it was like the most direct, solid, indisputable evidence of the cross-pollination going on right now between like American cartoons and Japanese cartoons. There was an anime that was about gemstone people, and it was and and I watched it, and I just did that thing, like what was that thing where Leonardo DiCaprio in like Wolf of Wall Street just like whistles and snaps at the TV and points. I'm like, yeah, I know what you're watching.
I believe that's from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, is it? Okay. Sorry, I'm not up on my DiCaprio, but there was an anime about.
I haven't seen either movie.
Okay.
So,
yeah, there was a whole anime that was about like girls at a school, and they were made of jewels, and they got into fights, and I'm all like, stop me if you've heard this one before.
I think like you could make the argument that there's a bit of the magical girl stuff from anime in.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so it's like it's very back and forth. Like I know a lot of like Astro Boy and stuff was very inspired.
You were saying it's about Spike. You were saying about gem people, and I was about to say I've seen Sailor Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because all the villains in Sailor Moon are named after rocks.
It's I'm not saying this is bad, by the way, everyone. Again, I'm having to fucking like preemptively defend myself because the world is full of people eager to misinterpret. But
no, the guy who did Kimba and Astro Boy and stuff, like that guy was heavily. I know.
Yeah, he was heavily inspired by Disney stuff.
Osamu Tezuka.
Right, and then Disney's been inversely inspired by things anime does. So it's very
cross-pollination. It's totally okay and fine.
So much of American entertainment is located in California, which guess what has direct proximity to Japan. So there's a lot
of Asian population there. So it's
I mean, Osamu Tezuka's being influenced by things like Bambi is why a lot of anime and manga features, the big dinner plate eyes, because Bambi had the big dinner plate eyes, and that kind of, again, cross-pollinated back, and now a lot of American creators are influenced and inspired by a lot of manga and anime, and I just thought it was really funny. Land of the Lustrous, yes, thank you, Net Fisher, that's what it was called in English. That is the people who are jewels.
This is just a tangent about like American and Japanese stuff influencing each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a shame that it's going to be so hard to get Billy Bat over in the US in English.
Billy Bat?
Yes. It's by the guy who made Pluto. It's about a dude who is working in American comics, and then he is informed that he quote unquote stole a comic from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about him discovering, like, he goes to Japan and he discovers that he like somehow psychically tapped into this Japanese comic, and he is also recreating it. Also, there is a not Walt Disney character, which is the main reason why it's probably going to be a pain to like adapt here. Because they just drew Walt Disney, like
legally distinct Walt Disney, not even.
And then there's a conspiracy that he's a Nazi. So like, so not Walt Disney is involved in a Nazi conspiracy theory, and it's like, this comic is great, but it's never getting put out in English in the US.
Yeah, the Disney Corporation is incredibly bizarre about depictions of Disney. Like, the weirdest thing I've ever heard is, like, everyone in the mid-century, Walt Disney smoked like a fucking chimney, right? And he ultimately died of lung cancer. And there was a film that was put out, not super recently, but semi-recently, that chronicled Disney's sort of, and when I say Disney, I mean the man, Disney's almost obsessive pursuit of, I believe it was Mary Poppins. Like, he kept bothering the woman who wrote the original books. He was absolutely desperate to adapt it. And she was very reluctant because she thought the story was going to be dumbed down and really just modified without her consent and turned into something she personally couldn't endorse. And so a lot of the movie is about Walt Disney basically trying to convince this woman, no, it's okay, I promise, it'll be all right, it'll be fine. But
Yeah, not
when
Mr. Banks, that's the fictionalized version. That's the nice version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and,
Okay, so
and
I
basically,
found.
hold on, let me get there. Where basically, he was in the movie, and at the time, in real life, when he was doing all of this, he was actively dying of lung cancer. But the Disney Corporation was all like, "You cannot show Walt sick." It's like, but at the time, you cannot show Walt sick. Okay,
No,
can
he
we
needs
at
to
least
be
have him
immediately
coughing? And they're all like, "No, you cannot have him coughing." It's like, but at this point, he has terminal lung cancer, and they're like, "We acquiesce to you having him cough twice off camera." And it's so weird. It doesn't affect anything.
It's really weird. They try to turn Walt into this like fictional deity that just creeps me the hell out as somebody who knows anything about animation history and how vital that is to, you know, moving forward as a medium and as an industry. And like this deification of this man is actually deeply upsetting for me.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, he's
Okay.
a guy.
I pulled it up on Wikipedia, and I'm going to read you the description of this character.
Okay.
There is Chuck Culkin, the assistant who is in charge of drawing the Billy Bat series after Kevin left Japan. But there is a second Chuck Culkin who is the Walt Disney character. An imposter who has taken on the public persona of Chuck Culkin and is the head of the Chuck Culkin Enterprise Company, who owns the rights to Billy Bat. And he has the real Chuck Culkin cooped up in his mansion to produce new Billy Bat comics, and which have proven exemplary popular. He bears a striking resemblance to Walt Disney, both in appearance and personality. He is a former Nazi soldier who is personally tasked with traveling to the U.S. and popularizing the image of Billy Bat by Adolf Hitler.
That is bizarre.
Do I sound all right, by the way? I'm like,
yeah, you sound perfectly fine.
Really
Yeah.
I'm kneeling on the ground now because I'm like, I'm too tired to stand.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Not to worry.
Okay. Me and Tracy have been burning the candle at both ends.
I'll bet. Yeah, animation is hard, everyone.
It is. You know, we're doing our best to try to get to a position.
Yeah. Well, the trouble right now is that we are doing merch design and merch stuff and being our own marketing team, and also doing animation production, and also trying to keep up with Patreon and you know, a million other things.
With our the seasons recording, and that was like, oh my god, it was really fun, but also holy shit.
It was like, it's one of those things where it's like one of the most exhausting yet creatively gratifying moments of your life. And
you're laughing, but also you are so tired.
One of the things that's wild to just get out there, it's like the crowdfund for Lackadaisy hit over $2 million. We are absolutely definitely a seat of the pants shoestring budget production. And I know that sounds bizarre, but
like you're in a constant state of you're in a constant state of fundraising, because to keep an entire studio of people fed and paid and everything, you have to be. And I don't know how many people realize, like, okay, yes, 2 million, that was wonderful. First of all, you don't get that amount because you know, the platform takes its cut, taxes take its cut.
Yeah.
You have to pay for the production of all of that merchandise and everything and ship it.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge percentage of the cost of things. Is that merch is not free to make or ship, and costs have been fluctuating a lot.
So then you have, you know, say you have roughly maybe a little more than half of what you actually
raise.
You know, raise.
And the
like,
other half,
what it looks like you raise, but that is basically the budget for one studio produced episode.
Yeah, one episode.
And we have to make 5. We're going to make 5 episodes on that. So, you know,
it's basically like, okay, now with about $1 million, make an animated movie.
Yeah,
do it.
It'll kill you. It'll kill you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what looks to like the layperson, I guess, as wow, that's a lot of money. To us, we know and knew going in, like, this is actually still a shoestring budget.
And we're grateful, but for all of it, by the way.
Yeah, we are it was still more than we thought we could raise. So
remember when we were like, maybe we'll squeak to $1 million by the end?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride, but by no means are we air quotes rich. That is absolutely not the case.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had people get a little weird on me after, like, accusing me of being, like, wealthy now. I'm like, not a single penny of that.
yeah.
Not a
wish
single
that's
penny
what
of
it
that
was.
went to me. It all, like, I don't even take a salary out of this. Like, this is
Yeah.
all just going to production.
It's like the best way to just it's okay. Art is interesting, and when I say art is interesting, I'm not saying that in some sort of like mystic sense, like, oh, we're so much better than people who have cubicle jobs because XYZ. No, I think there is a aspect of ego that is wrapped up in people who actually create art and exist in communities of other people who create art, and that ego can sometimes make them do things that are straight up not to their benefit in the long run, like antagonize other artists. And as a person who has run 40 Kickstarters at this point, 40 crowdfunds, pardon me, 40 crowdfunds at this point, I have been on the receiving end of so many other artists who, and this sounds like so high school and so bizarre, but I've been on the receiving end of so many artists who I straight up thought were my friends, and then when Smut Peddler made $82,000, and then the next Smut Peddler made $250,000, and then Lackadaisy made $350,000, and then Lackadaisy 2 made $2 million. And when I say made, I'm like, that is the number on the crowdfund page. Like, there are people who straight up never spoke to me again for no reason. And it's like, I get it. I understand. I also exist in a perpetual stage of competitive jealousy with literally everyone around me, and it has helped me become the person I am today. But why are you being weird?
Well, I think it's good to use like spite and those feelings of inadequacy to propel yourself forward if you're able to, like, you know, alchemize them into motivation instead of demotivation.
I think
that's great.
Why not me?
But it's also like, you know, we've done a lot to like, and when I say like people got weird on me, it wasn't artists. It was like randos.
People have no idea.
Sending me anonymous things on like Tumblr and stuff, like saying weird things like that. Like they hide behind the anonymity. But
Twitter was like I'm gonna report you to SAG over the backer kit campaign that was still going on. I was like, I literally am talking to them. I don't know what
the guy who was quote going to get us shut down when we were not even in production. We were
there's a lot.
Like, well, he had his own ideas about how things are run, and when SAG themselves told him no, that's not how it works, he was like, well, you're wrong, actually.
Yeah, SAG is wrong about how SAG is run.
Okay. Anyway. No, but we have done a lot of like I like to be able to help other artists at any point at which, like, you know, we're in the position to do that, because lots of artists have helped us and we got so much helpful advice along the way. We had people connect us up with a lawyer. Like, you want to pay it forward, and so we've consulted with a lot of people, just no charge at all, to just like, how do you run a crowdfund for like an animated thing? And we've talked to a lot of folks about that.
For sure. Yeah, because I mean, this sounds so cheesy, but you gotta make friends and keep friends. That's how you get to exist in a lot of spaces, really. And I think a lot sometimes about the kind of people who approach the artistic realm, whether it's webcomics or cartoons or whatever, and they treat it like a zero-sum game. They treat it like, you know, Thunderdome. And I remember people whose entire webcomic existence was just shitting on other webcomics in this almost compulsive way.
Yeah, that is a really, like, it just speaks of a deep insecurity.
That's not going to earn you friends who are willing to help you out, because like you have this mistaken impression that the reason why other people are successful is that they cheated somehow.
Oh, God.
Rather than everybody is helping each other out. It's like, I have some news for you about how anything gets done. It's always people helping each other out. That's why we even exist as a species.
Yes,
we wouldn't
exactly.
we wouldn't have come down from the trees if not for that.
That's honestly the human superpower, collaboration.
And it's like, you can be kind of salty that you're not in with the cool crowd or whatever, but also remember that the cool crowd is usually your friends and you supporting each other. And it's like, the way that you get into the cool crowd is you just do cool things and you have friends.
Sounds hard. Never
You
mind.
think is cool. You're not friends with them because, oh well, they're successful and they'll get me a job or whatever. It's like, no, a lot of us are unemployed most of the time.
Yeah.
But occasionally someone has some success and they usually are happy to share it around the best that they can. But they also are not going to be able to make you instantly successful by just like retweeting you on their Twitter or whatever, just because they have, like,
a lot of people.
Like, that's not going to do it.
I think I think the problem is, well, you know what, maybe not the problem. I think a lot of people are influenced by fiction because in fiction, because of the necessity of telling a story in sort of a way that's easy for an audience to parse, there are really solid points that you can like point to and be like, all right, this is when this went down. This is when this went down. This, and a lot of people kind of expect real life to be that way too. Like their big break will happen if I do this one thing. If I treat my life like a shonen manga, I will have this defined point where I air quotes made it. And then I will be a professional, and it's very rarely
what
like
you
that.
don't realize is that validation you crave is unattainable.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where you are. You're always looking up at somebody else, going like, "Man, I wish I had that level of validation. Then I'd be all set. Then I'd be so secure with myself." But you never will.
Artists, no matter what level, are extremely neurotic.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I bet
sure.
if I had a conversation with James Gurney, I bet you he'd be like, yeah, but not as good as this other guy. And he like mentioned some master that he was influenced by or whatever.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
meanwhile, I was like, you're painting God though.
Yeah.
But you're painting God though.
Yeah, it's just that's just a factor of your life. There's not going to be a point. In all, you know what? Some people do have it. Todd McFarlane definitely had it. But he's, again, in many ways in the minority. Most people are not going to have this point where they can point at and be like, that was the moment where I realized everything and I was a professional and everyone lauded me as a professional and everyone stood around me like Shinji at the end of Evangelion applauding and going, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Award.
Yeah.
You know what happens when you get the award is that you still have to go home and, you know, take a shit and take a shower and fall asleep.
Yeah.
And
Well, there's that, but then like the expectation is raised. So like the next year when you're not one of the award recipients, you feel bad. And it's stupid. And you know you're stupid for feeling bad because somebody else is winning the award, because of course it's somebody else this time. But you still like you have that
you're like
that sense of like, well, I guess I failed this year, like, you know, or something, like, or I went backwards, I did worse.
That reminds
or
me,
something.
it's like the numbers that our YouTube is doing is really, really well, but we're so fucking brain poisoned by the numbers that we have that it's like,
like
is this good or is this bad? It's hard to tell now.
It's like, I don't want to have to do another crowdfund, but if we ever did another crowdfund, it would be like less than what we earned last time, and I would be like, I would feel defeated somehow, and that's so stupid, but it is just like the way your brain works.
Nudist is saying there is no level of success I can't mentally downplay into nothing. Oh my god, that is accurate. That is so fucking accurate.
It's also like success is not going to fix your mental issues.
There's this
either.
Tom Cardy song.
You still have anxiety and be successful.
Yeah, there's this Tom Cardy song called Level Clear, and oh my god, that fucking echoes in my head all the time. Tom Cardy is he's like this, I think he's Australian, funny musician guy. And he has this song about being a compulsive overachiever called Level Clear. And it's about how, you know, he's a video game protagonist. And like the last sentence he hears the antagonist say is, even if you did defeat me, what would you do then? And the refrain in the song over and over is, level clear, start again. And it's like, that has been my entire fucking life. Level clear, start again.
Set up a chain reaction in the Iron Circus Comics stream server now because I posted Dirac, and it's like now cats. It's all cats now. Go ahead, Kat.
I started to rewatch BoJack Horseman because we talked about it last week, Spike. And yeah, the part where his mom is like, I know you want to be happy, but you won't.
Yeah.
And it's like Beatrix is based.
She's correct. She's horrible. She's a horrible mom, and she's abusive and horrible. But and she is correct that BoJack will never be happy.
She's
because
brain.
because she doesn't have the words for it, but basically clinical depression runs in their family.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I know you want to fill that hole in you with your little projects and your girlfriend, but they won't make you happy. And they never will.
If there's ever a sequel to BoJack Horseman, I really want to follow his half sister, because I'm so interested in her life now. Like, what does she do? Because it's still like a really cool world with all these cool characters, but BoJack's story is done, and I'm happy to put it to bed. I want to see what happens to her. It's like, okay, BoJack fucked up.
Hollyhock.
Hollyhock though has a chance. Hollyhock has really similar issues, but an entirely different background. How does Hollyhock manage this?
Yeah, she has supportive parents who love her.
Right.
Many
dads.
That's one of the things, but also seems more self-aware of her own issues than.
And I would argue, if I were feeling spicy, I would argue that a lot of AFAB people tend to get way less leeway when lashing out with their emotional difficulties.
Like, she wouldn't get away.
Yeah.
She wouldn't get away with the same bullshit that BoJack pulled and was celebrated for.
Exactly.
Well, I think part of why she is more self-aware is because she does have those supportive dads.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like when she says that when she's crying and BoJack is like, what would your dad say? And she's like, they say it's okay to feel bad, and you shouldn't feel bad for feeling bad, and that it's okay to cry, and it's like, oh, that's really good advice. And she goes, they are really good dads.
I love that they took this simple joke of just like her ridiculous last name. They're like, no, let's follow through on that. Like,
like
when
one
she
for each.
says to BoJack, I have enough dads. I don't need you to be my dad. It's both funny and also poignant, because it's like she has every positive example of dudes in her life. She doesn't need you to be one as well, and he still kind of fucks up. In the worst way. It's like, bro, the bar is on the floor.
I do believe last week there was someone who said that they haven't seen it and they don't want spoilers.
Oh,
so we
shit! Sorry. We won't talk. But I will say, I can say this without it being a spoiler. One of the things that I keep coming back to with BoJack Horseman that just amuses the shit out of me is like, there are animal people and there are people, and for the most part, they kind of exist as equals in the world. But then every once in a while, you will run into one of the animal people. For some reason, it's usually a bear. And they straight up can't talk. They're not considered farm animals like the chickens that are given like hormones to fuck up their brains so we can eat them. They are just like existing in the world, paying taxes, driving cars, and they never say anything more complicated than
It is always a bear. It is always the bear.
Like, the reason why BoJack Horseman will not answer questions about its world is that the chicken episode exists.
Yeah, exactly. The chicken episode is wild.
I appreciate that they went there and it was really dark, and then they just like didn't address it ever again.
That's all the answer you need, frankly. It's like, the answer is it's fucked up, and yes.
Yeah.
It's a background gag, but I love the cow waitress like angrily slamming down a plate for a customer, going, "Here's your steak."
Yeah, it's fucking, it's like, and the thing is, okay, I have fairly strong feelings about world building-y stuff, and that is kind of going to be reflected in this statement, but I feel that a lot of media, especially media made in what we very inaccurately refer to as, air quotes, the West, I think there's this propensity to really want to explain every facet of something. And to me, that is like being a 1-ton mosquito and landing on something and sucking all the life out of it. I'm a big proponent of, actually, no, we don't have to explain everything.
Right. Like, I get a lot of questions about Lackadaisy along those
Oh,
lines,
yeah,
where
those are
people
fun.
ask very specific questions about, and they want to know everything. They want everything explained when they ask the question. But
They
it's
want
like,
to know everything.
I want to say, like, you don't want to know everything, because then it takes all of the fun out of reading it or watching it or anything. It's like
some of the things though they want to know are be like, okay, I see you there with the ruler, but I'm not going to answer that question.
Yeah. And that's kind of, and I'm saying this fully, I have not watched it. Feel free to excoriate the shit out of me for this, audience, because I have not watched this and cannot defend my opinion. But part of me is, that's why I have no interest in watching the Furiosa movie, because I know what it's gonna do and I'm not interested.
I'd be curious to watch it if it doesn't care about being sequential, because
it's
Miller
not about being sequential. I'm like, God, that director doesn't give a shit about being sequential. It's more about,
watch an interesting movie by him. Watch Happy Feet 2.
I will say, I saw it. I saw it, and it's its own movie. It is not. It does not feel like. I mean, the very end, they do connect it up to the but it's not. It just is its own thing. It's got its own vibe. It really doesn't feel like it's that concerned with explaining everything about this character, and so much as it is just like giving you another story in this world.
Oh, okay. That's actually really reassuring.
So, did you hear the thing about how it was originally conceived?
What?
The Furiosa movie. So it was basically, when making Fury Road, I forget the guy's name, even though you just said it 5 minutes ago.
George Miller?
Yes, George Miller wanted to have, like, the Fury Road release, a comic release, and some other form of media. I think an animated, like, anthology thing release.
Oh, that would be so
and
cool.
he wanted them all to come out at once and be, like, interconnected.
Wow.
And form on each other. And he was kind of thinking using the Animatrix and the Matrix sequel as, like, a model. And then Hollywood was like, no.
Yeah, they're not gonna do the risky thing. They're gonna do
And so then they took the story that was gonna be the comic, and that eventually became the movie Furiosa. And someone was talking about this in regards to pacing and some other, like, story problems that the Furiosa movie has, and he's like, yeah, those are there because it is incomplete. And so, like, originally it was supposed to be part of this greater whole, and now we're only getting a chunk of it 10 years later, rather than getting these things that happen all at once.
Like, you can kind of tell, like, my interpretation of it is that he had all this lore in his head, and he's just he's kind of backfilling it, and it is more or less an explanation, but it's not presented that way, as if, like, oh, here, it's not like the Star Wars films where it's just like, oh, here's Chewbacca, look, he showed up even before we even thought, it's just not like that. Like, you see a lot of familiar characters, like Immortan Joe and everything, not the same actor, obviously, because he passed away in between, but you can't tell because he's got the mask on and he's all makeup and everything, but it's got its own set of other unique characters that are just fun, and you only get to know them superficially, but they're just fun on the surface because they're George Miller characters. They're just like, like the Toe Eater, the Octoboss in this movie or whatever. It's like they're just, and then the villain is his own character as well.
I should ask my buddy Tina if she wants to go see it, because, like, she's the friend of mine who I went to go see it multiple times later with.
I would agree with when I met Tina she was cosplaying Nux.
Yes.
But
our friends really like
I would say it isn't Fury Road. It's not as good as Fury Road, but it's a good movie and worth watching and worth seeing in a theater probably too. It relies more heavily on CG than Fury Road. Fury Road had a lot of CG in it, but it didn't have, like, it also relied a lot on, like, practical, like, actual stunts and things. This, I don't think they they probably didn't want to spend another several years in the desert filming all of that, so they did. It sounds like a miserable time, so they did a lot of CG instead. It wasn't egregious or like the only thing that bothered me is like there's some dogs in the movie that are CG, and it's like every time they do animals, it's always so obvious, no matter how.
So badly, like they lose their knees bend more than they really have to.
Yeah, they over animate them or something, and it just always looks wrong.
I say that CG animals are usually animated,
but they're not like. They're not a big part of the movie in any way, so it's not that distracting. It was just like mildly like, that's
Gross.
Like, why even bother having the dogs there? But yeah, I mean, like the villain, what's his name? Played the villain, Chris Hemsworth, but he had like a prosthetic nose on or something to make him look a little weirder, and it worked, and it was good, and he was his own character, and he was interesting. I liked him as a villain. He was like, I don't want to give it away, but he's like this like just kind of fucked up and chaotic, but like you understood why he was doing what he was doing eventually, and I just thought it was well done. And
characters in a George Miller movie, I unironically love Happy Feet, the original. So
no, like I just say go watch it. It's just more world building without telling you anything explicitly. It's that same George Miller thing where he's good at showing and not telling.
That you are paying attention to the movie.
Yeah,
and that maybe you want to watch it actually.
Yeah, Nudist actually hit it on the head. What I'm so afraid of stuff like this, because Aliens was I would never dream in a million years it could have been so thoroughly ruined for me forever as it was by Prometheus, because I'm just so I have a hard time articulating how disappointing and destructive that movie was to like my entire concept of what made Alien interesting and cool. And I think Alien kind of fell apart. I'm one of those people. I think Alien fell apart the minute they made a sequel. Yes, the power loader scene was cool. Yes, Ripley is a boss-ass bitch. Yes, that's all really fucking cool. However, choices are now made in the Alien franchise where it feels like they're just piling on racing stripes. They're out of ideas and they're recycling. And the first Alien movie has this impossible to reproduce element about it where nobody understands anything. And therefore, oh shit, we cut it, and the alien blood ate through 3 decks. Oh god, this guy was just having dinner with us, and then the chest burster came out. Oh Jesus, it killed this person and killed that person, and it killed them with their like horrible moray eel interior mouth. And it was just this countless, it's hard to describe to people. It was like this relentless onslaught of terrible, unknowable, unfightable things. And that's what made Alien, the original, so good. And by the time Aliens rolled around, again, very cool elements. Very cool. Alien Queen, Power Loader, Bishop being ripped in half. I'm down. It was a good watch. But we had changed from this sort of unknowable horror aspect into the action extravaganza accent. And because they abandoned this horror element, which arguably in a way they kind of didn't have a choice about because they blew their load all over Alien 1. Like, you know what the alien is now. You could argue that. But now that they've done that, we've kind of entered like the geek wiki era of Aliens, where it's all about documenting every possible form, and here's exactly what it looks like under.
It's like the lore starts to outweigh the storytelling, and it becomes lopsided in that way, and it's like boring at that point. It's just like if you're collecting factoids, okay, fine, but if you're just wanting to watch a movie and enjoy the movie for the movie, you can't really enjoy it on that level any longer.
The film, if you want to make it like that, is going to have to be really different. Like I was watching what's that thing with the alien whale? It's like a
I don't know.
It's South Scrimshaw. Yeah, have you guys heard of that?
I have not. That's a new one on me.
It's like click and play like visual novel kind of a thing. It's like I wouldn't call it a game because there's no real game aspect. You just kind of click to go to the next page. It's like one of those read-along books in a way. It's very comic-like with like music and voiceover and everything. But it has such atmosphere, despite being like most of it being treated as like a documentary about these alien whales on an alien planet, where you're getting the sense that this is an alien world that was seeded with Earth life some time ago, and that it has evolved in really interesting and strange directions where it's like familiar but not. And it does such a good job of giving like this atmosphere and presence and horror at times through the eyes of like both what a documentary would observe, but also like the protagonist is basically this young whale that it's following, where like the premise is that the whales on this planet are kind of like you know those crustaceans, like hermit crabs, that like adhere objects to their shell in order to blend in?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, imagine that, but it's a whale instead.
Oh, okay.
And it's like changing its whole morphology by adhering like ecosystems to itself. So you can have like a kelp whale or a whale made out of like crustacean bones and that kind of thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, look up Sal Scrimshaw. I think.
Yeah, Miss Alsmere said decorator crabs. That's what they're called, decorator crabs.
Yeah, and so Sal Scrimshaw does this thing where it's like you're getting a lot of lore on these animals, but it keeps on like asking you a question. It's like, but so long as you're asking, you know, there's another question to answer, and like you're actually compelled to like find out what's going on. It can be a very effective form of storytelling, but you just have to know what you're doing. Like you can't just go, I'm gonna fit the mold into every other action horror creature thing. You're just gonna get a Jurassic World where you know, in every Jurassic Park sequel, which basically just eliminated the intrigue of Jurassic Park. It's like it's not the dinosaurs. It's everything.
It's the human folly, you know.
Yeah, but then it kind of doesn't care about that. Like Jurassic World would have been way more interesting for me if it had been like, what if Blackfish but with dinosaurs and a disaster film.
Yeah, well, you get to the point where there's kind of nothing left but spectacle, and like Jurassic Park again, Jurassic Park 1, which by the way, I've mentioned this before on this podcast, but still looks pretty fucking good. But it has that whole like, it's one of the most memorable lines from it is, you know, you were so obsessed with the idea with wondering if you could, you didn't stop for a moment to think if you should. And like that was a central facet of the conundrum of, is this a thing we should be doing? The whole Jurassic Park, is this a thing we should be doing? Is this a good idea? Was a big part of the original movie. And there was a guy who his first line ever is, they should all be destroyed. And that is like, you know, he has his argument, and it is a fully valid argument. And the movie just sort of like addressed like, you know, we can talk more on the whole science gone too far element and how I can consider it like inherently problematic, kind of but
Jurassic Park is pretty good.
Yeah, Jurassic Park, like a lot of the sequels have now, they fully embraced spectacle, and there's kind of not a shit ton of thought going into it. And it's, where can we put the dinosaurs now? What can they do now?
Like, how can we come up with an even bigger, badder main dinosaur than the T-Rex? And it's just like, well, Mega T-Rex or whatever the fuck they came up with. Like,
what annoys me is that, okay, you created a genetic monstrosity, so
the
now
Velociraptors, and they can speak English and do math. And
Exactly. It's like,
they were like, they decided that the big reveal at the end of Jurassic World is it's part raptor, and I'm like, well, of course it's part raptor. They put every awesome soar into it. What would have been shocking is if they went with that like aborted script for the Jurassic Park sequel that like was like, and then the dinosaurs are merged with humans. Make it stupid. Just go for it. It's like, now you have dinosaur people. Why not? Let's go there.
Honestly, if you're gonna do spectacle at this point,
they dance around the concept too, because they basically with Jurassic World and like the sequels to it, they come up with the idea of like, there is a genetic apocalypse. The dinosaurs are loose, and they make it clear also that this whole like, they don't just clone dinosaurs, they can clone people too, which begs the question, what other genetic monstrosities are going on in a world where the technology for Jurassic Park exists, which is a really interesting idea, and then they just don't do anything with it.
Yeah,
but the dinosaurs though, it's like, the dinosaurs are the least interesting thing. You've just opened up Pandora's box, and you're not willing to follow it.
I hate when shows trip over interesting ideas and then do nothing with them. There is a Netflix show, The Order, which is about werewolves versus witches.
Okay.
So of course I watched all of it.
Naturally, sure.
the witches go to an Ivy League school, and it very clearly becomes apparent that the werewolves are literally eating the rich.
Nice.
And the main character is the only werewolf is like, but what if we didn't eat all the witches? And that's because he thinks one blonde girl who's a witch is hot.
Of course.
And he's trying to be like, make peace between the two factions. And the whole time, the blonde girl that he likes is when she finally figures out that they're werewolves that are eating the rich. She's like, well, the problem is that the people in power of the coven are bad. So if we just put good people in charge of the all-powerful magician group, that will fix everything.
No.
And no. This is all building up to the interesting thing that they just do nothing with. And so I hear her say that, and the other werewolves are like, that sounds fake. So I'm like, and then the season ends with, they have to team up with the quote unquote good witches have to team up with the werewolves and to stop the main bad guy, who is an out of control megalomaniac, and they defeat him, success, and then the quote unquote good witches wipe the memories of all the werewolves, betray them, and steal all their stuff. And that's how season 1 ends. And I was like, so clearly they're building up to blonde girl that he likes is white feminism, and so she can't be trusted. And like, so next season they're gonna be like, no, we do have to eat all the rich people.
We were right the first time.
And then the second season is not that. The second season's villain is a guy who wants to seize the means of magic production and distribute it to the masses.
Okay. You got so close, but you didn't get there, man. You tripped, you landed on your face. It's like an anime. I was watching this, go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, so it's just like, you had this interesting idea. You could have been building up this character to be like commentary on white feminism or black capitalism and how that will not save you. Because again, she immediately betrays them all as soon as it's convenient for her. And clearly that wasn't intentional, because the very next season is, what if the werewolves were actually magic cops?
God. That's a
and
letdown.
It's like, you had an idea that was interesting and you tripped over it, and then you were like, we better put this away.
There is a there's an issue with, like, you have a chance to do something so fun here, and you could just like slide in a little bit of commentary about, the violence inherent in the system if you wanted to, and just you decide, let's just make it big and loud and have them fight. And
it's you accidentally stumbled upon a good idea, but you didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Some people don't it was very clearly like an accident. That
they don't know what they're making an allegory for.
Yeah.
And I was like, you had a kid who was sneaking into an Ivy League school's like Skull and Bones society so he can spy on these wizards. And you didn't think like, maybe we could do some class commentary here.
Seriously. It's just like, for folks who are new here, and there seem to be a bunch. So Lackadaisy, the comic I am sitting here very laboriously and slowly inking right now, is literally inspired by my fascination with military history, turn of the century, like 19th into 20th century, and maybe a little earlier, specifically like Eurasian history. And for all my jokes about like calling these little people, they're like Keebler elves and Fievel Mousekewitz and stuff, they're actually kind of inspired by Cossacks. And for folks who don't know their Russian history, in a nutshell version is, when sort of feudal serfdom came to Russia, where it persisted much longer than anywhere else, by the way. When feudal serfdom came to Russia, there was this contingent of people who like looked that over and went, no, thank you. And they got on their horses and rode away. And they basically, instead of being enslaved to a plot of land under a lord, they just became these sort of roving ne'er-do-wells on horseback that were kind of doing their own thing.
Classic Russia.
Yeah, and so these people are actually, despite the fact they look like, this, they are inspired by Cossacks. And at the same time, though, I don't want to, like, one of the things that kind of fascinates me and I'm really into is people who are very backwards facing, and they long for traditions they've never experienced and old-fashioned modalities that they've never been a part of, and they idealize and lionize that. Like, every once in a while you'll run across somebody who talks about how he would have liked to live in the 50s because he would have had a housewife and 2 cars and a house in the suburbs. And number one,
you're a loser. You doesn't do anything.
It's like, number one, I'm fascinated by the idea you think you wouldn't be a loser in the 50s. Like that's like you think the issue is the year and not you. But setting that aside, one of the central tenets of Lakada is going to be these people right now who are living this life, this sort of Cossack-inspired Eurasian steppe kind of life. They don't like it very much because they live in a very strictly hierarchical society where there's definitely a top and a bottom, and they're kind of like dangling off the bottom. And one of the issues with dangling really, really close to the bottom is that you could argue you would actually be better off a slave, because these guys are literally thieves and murderers and all kinds of, like, they do terrible things to survive. But the system says, actually, what you should be doing is you should be in perpetual bondage to a much more successful, they call them roof, like, roof of a house, much more successful roof. You should be in perpetual bondage to a much more successful roof because you have made it clear you cannot exist on your own. But a lot of the terrible things they are forced to do, they have no say in it because they are the product of people who didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So if you are raised by people who are shit at life and you go into the world covered in lice, illiterate, no friends, no house, and you are just sort of like dangling off the bottom rung of that ladder, and there are people around you who are just like, well, yeah, you suck, you can't help sucking, you should just be a slave. Like, that sucks! That's not a great way to run a society, but it's a popular way to run a society. And they're subject to this really popular way to run a society. And later on in the story, they're going to come up against these people who are like, oh my god, you're one of the free horse people? That's so fucking cool. Tell me what it's like to ride across the veldt with the wind in your hair. And they're just like, I literally don't even own a horse. They won't let me have one.
The way that, I don't know if you guys watched Game of Thrones, but the way the wildlings
yes,
appealed to the libertarians was a little upsetting.
Yes, it's so clueless. It's so fucking clueless. It's so clueless.
Hey, Spike, let's segue to this. Spike, have you watched the video on the MS Satoshi?
Of course, the SS Satoshi, you mean?
Yeah, and there's a new one that came out like 2 or 3 days ago.
I fucking love it. Everyone here, you have to watch it.
It's hilarious.
The dumbest motherfuckers alive buy a cruise ship.
Yeah, it's okay for folks who don't know what we're talking about. It is called. All right, so Satoshi is the guy. I personally don't believe he exists, but that's besides the point.
He's probably dead if he did.
No, I personally think Satoshi is a small conglomeration of white dudes in a Discord somewhere. But
why don't they have access to that wallet then?
Satoshi is supposedly the founder of Bitcoin, the author of the original white paper arguing for Bitcoin, who talks about all, this currency should be independent of any government, internationally tradable, fully unregulated. That is where freedom lies. And Satoshi, I should note, has not been heard from in a very long time. Very long time.
Isn't Satoshi, quote unquote, the largest single holder of Bitcoin amongst everybody?
I don't know the detail, but I do know that he has gone radio silent, and just I think he'll probably stay that way.
That's the thing where I think it's like, if it was a guy, he's dead, because otherwise, why has that wallet not moved this entire time? But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, but yeah, the general idea is but anyway, the SS Satoshi. A lot of people have very strong ideas about freedom, all caps, screaming eagle flying across it, rainbow concept, where they literally don't understand anything about the world. And I think Dan Olson, the guy who goes by Folding Ideas on YouTube, put it the best way when he talks about they understand this one complicated thing, which is cryptocurrency and occasionally programming, but not always. They understand this one complicated thing, and they think that qualifies them to do and understand other complicated things without trying to, really.
They are extremely a hammer in search of a nail.
Yeah, and
extremely.
One of the story of the SS Satoshi is it's by these Bitcoin enthusiasts who are convinced the way forward for truly, air quotes, free people is to buy a luxury cruise ship, fill it full of Bitcoin mining rigs, move all of these Bitcoin, bedroom and basement millionaires into the cabins of the Bitcoin mining cruise ship, and then perpetually sail forever and ever in international waters where they are no longer subject to any law of any nation and can do as they please. That is true freedom. And that is a 5-year-old's idea of freedom. That does not exist. That is not real.
Not only do they just didn't
have thought of this, and it's like, why hasn't anybody done this before? It's like, maybe you should look that up.
Yeah.
Maybe like they made a lot of assumptions about what naval law actually is like.
Yeah.
And about the tax situation and about the port situation and
is this
the pirate situation and
is this the
adding something video?
Cruise ship libertarians who found out that they cannot cook their own food?
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. Like, here's the general thing. Like,
so I found out about this because Behind the Bastards did a whole series that was about every time libertarians tried to take to the sea.
Because there's a lot of times.
They also took over a town in like my home state of New Hampshire and then filled it with bears because they refused to pay for trash service. And it's like, fuck.
I have a book in my Audible library about that called A Libertarian Walks Into a Bear that I've been meaning to read.
Yeah. As a New Hampshire person, I have some strong feelings about libertarianism.
Yeah. But the SS Satoshi, this cruise ship, the whole, if you go, so many miles offshore, you are in international waters, and it's basically do whatever you want, everything is legal. That is literally not true. It is an urban legend that if you are in international waters, there's no such thing as crime. That is an insane lie. There's a cascading sort of realm of responsibility, and the way they would propose it, the law on the ship would be the law of the nation in which it is registered, and your ship must be registered. So even if you never ever entered the realm, the nautical mileage around a country ever again, wherever your ship is registered, that is the law that applies. There is no lawlessness on international waters.
They couldn't find anyone who would let them dock anywhere except for like Panama and Thailand. And it was like Thailand. They initially built like some kind of
sea pod. That's a
sea pod out there, and they pissed off because they thought they were not subject to Thailand's like naval rules. They just did what they felt like, and then they pissed off the Thailand's government, and they got run off in the middle of the night by by Thailand's like navy, and then for somehow they didn't learn their lesson from that there are actually rules on the water, even if you go far out to sea, and the fact that they needed the fact that they needed certification of seaworthiness was something that eluded them, which I think even people who don't go boating would know, like just from the proximity of like owning a vehicle. You need to insure it, you need to have a driver's license, you need to have you need to pay taxes on it, and they just didn't seem to think that the same things applied to boats in general. I don't know.
Yeah.
They couldn't find insurers, they couldn't find docks.
I have a yacht, so I'm qualified to sail around the world. It's like
it was just like, it was clear they didn't do a 10-minute Google before embarking upon this thing. Like, they honestly thought that there was all this shit they were not going to have to worry about and not be subject to, and it's basic stuff.
Well,
if
the
you guys
other
want to
thing,
watch this video,
so the thing that Behind the Bastards points out is the guy who brainstormed this whole idea, is he was all like, yes, it will be complete freedom, but you cannot cook your own food. You have to buy food from the kitchen that we will rent to restaurants or people who want to run a restaurant in the boat. And they're like, oh, so I can't even have a microwave. And it's like, no, you cannot have a microwave. You have to buy food from the like cruise ship kitchen. And it's like,
that doesn't sound like
so
freedom.
Sound quite
that
like
does not
freedom.
sound like freedom. Like,
you can't even have Hot Pockets in your
no Hot Pockets. Hot Pockets are contrary to freedom.
My mom makes me eat chicken nuggets at home. Like, you get less freedom than if you live with your mother. It's very sad.
It's very weird. It's like they have this whole philosophy that's very, it doesn't interface with reality very well. And the thing is, a lot of them have the money to find that out in real time. So
it's honestly it probably saved their lives that they didn't get very far with it for very long. I mean, it was like costing them like $12,000 a day for gas alone to fuel the ship. But they didn't seem to have a business plan to deal with that. So I think they were like thinking of basically everybody pitches in, and then it's like, but then that sounds familiar. Everybody
that sounds like taxes, my dude.
I know. Is that socialism or what? But
yes.
they didn't. But because they didn't get out on the sea, like they would have been sitting ducks for like
pirates,
Somali pirates or somebody.
They totally would have all won Darwin Awards.
Yeah, it's
all of them. Did you see the picture of the ship on Adam Something's video? Is just like holy shit! It looks like a Cybertruck. It's so nasty. It looks like it's leaking shit out of its holes. It's so.
We've all been there.
The Behind the Bastards episode, they found one attempt for libertarians taking to the sea that was marginally successful.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it wasn't pitched as freedom. It was more pitched as an interesting like engineering test. Which is basically there is a thing that is described as Burning Man but on the water.
Okay.
The one rule is so the one rule is don't drown.
Fair enough.
And the idea is that everyone makes their own little boat or raft, and they're connected together. And whoever made the boat made that raft has the rules for that raft. So one raft can be like no drugs on my raft.
Okay.
One raft can be like
all the drugs on my raft.
But you can have all the drugs.
You can't board unless you're high.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to have done this much weed. You have to have smoked this much weed to come aboard.
Sounds fun, but if you did on like a lake instead.
So the idea is that they want to see. So like every year they do it, and it gets like a couple of days longer because they want to see if they can successfully make this work long term. And because they're not idiots, they are doing it like, we'll test it for a week. Did a week work? How about 2 weeks? Like, so it's and because it is, you make your own raft and then you make the rules for that raft, it is attracting more engineer people rather than just pure
ideological, like,
because it's attracting obviously libertarians because they want to do like freedom, but they're usually overlapping with engineers. It's also attracting some anarchists. And so
it's like Wasteland, but in the water instead of the desert, so it's more water world inspired instead of
so it's basically that is Bert Wizard is saying intelligent rational people involved is what I'm hearing. Yes, and that's basically the reason why it worked, is because they are slowly making it longer and longer, and they are being intelligent rational human beings.
Is it fun?
It sounds like
Well,
it has the
Sounds like a
capacity.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
like
sounds like they're establishing though a bunch of like micronations instead of
Yeah.
you know.
This
well,
is-
that's more freedom than
That's true.
You can't make hot pockets on this.
That's true. That is true. Yes.
Yeah, this is actually reminiscent of a thing I watched recently. I think the guy's name on YouTube is Adam something. Like
Yes,
Adam.
Adam
Yeah,
something.
like
Yeah, that is
literally-
the one where
Right.
that's the video we're talking about. It's
Yeah.
like a 17-minute long video.
Yeah,
It's very
and-
entertaining.
Adam something has a lot of funny videos
Yeah,
like
and
this.
there's this one video he made, not recently, but I love it so fucking much because it has the patience to explain a thing I have years ago run out of patience to explain, which is there are people who seem to like, they don't know where the library is, so they've never read a history book. And they talk about how everything would be so much better if we just got rid of all the laws and all the regulations and just let people live their lives doing what they want. And they are like specifically like the anarcho-capitalist subset of these people. Like I should just be able to, peddle my wares and do whatever I want the way I want to do it without all these rules. Number one, rules are for people who need them. Rules exist. They are all written in blood. They exist because someone made it clear this rule needed to exist. But even if you got your ideal situation where every nation on earth broke apart into independent city-states with absolutely no restrictions on capitalism and focus on individual liberty, bro, in 2 generations, you would just have feudalism. It would just be feudalism. And like he goes through it in such detail where it's like, okay, pretend this guy, owns this well and he owns all the well water and he began selling the well water, but then someone else came up with a way to purify water that tastes better than the cell water. In your perfect ANCAP society, the guy who has the better tasting water would do better than the guy selling the well water, and he would use that water to make more things, and then he would buy out the guy with the well water and filter that well water, so now he controls all the water. And yeah,
all the issues with human nature where the guy who owns the well goes, well, fuck that guy, and murders the dude with the filter.
He doesn't even go there though. He just talks about how like even if you intermeshed the whole sort of rule of law with the idea that anarcho-capitalists could ever function, you would still within 50 years, bro, it's just feudalism. That's all that would happen.
Freaking out. And they're like, they're all foaming at the mouth, dreaming of being a feudal lord. It's like, it's the same thing with crypto. Like they're shitting on fiat currency, but the real problem is that they're not the ones with all of the money.
The shitting on
fiat.
Like,
I'll invent my own money where I have all of the money and you don't.
Yeah,
and it's like
the shitting on fiat currency, in my opinion, it's just a grift. Because the thing is, if they were so down on fiat currency, they wouldn't be so hyped trying to get yours. Yeah. It's like they talk incessantly about money is going to be worthless, the big crash is coming. Then why do you want mine so bad?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be good? Shouldn't you be like chilling in your Discord somewhere with like your like 18 million shit
like,
coin?
It's like those MLMs where if the product was that good, why do you need so many people to be sellers for this thing?
Yeah.
You can't move the product enough.
Yeah.
That seems weird.
It's just like it's so. If you are so down on fiat currency, why do you want everyone else's fiat currency? It's the math ain't mathin'. There's a plot hole, dude, and you cannot explain it. There's no explanation for your plot hole.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Sorry, I get very passionate about this. And Adam has another video about like he has another video about sort of like what ANCAP, a truly ideal. And the thing is, this is what he talks about, like everything turning into feudalism, is if everything magically fit the parameters of what most anarcho-capitalists would describe as like the ideal society. Like the joke with a lot of leftist people is the ideal society is fully automated gay space communism. But like for anarcho-capitalists, it's be like, the little city-states doing their own thing. And he talks about it would be feudalism, but he has another one that I've been meaning to watch. I'll get around to it later tonight, probably, where he talks about there is also a way less cool theocratic version of what could happen ultimately. Because societies aren't static. Societies evolve. And if you enable this kind of society, it will not stay this kind of society. It will become this other kind of society, which we have already done and decided we don't like.
We have litigated this one already.
The Behind the Bastards episode also goes over every time the libertarians try to take to the sea, they just reinvent government.
Yeah, absolutely. We all need to put our money into a pot to help support the Satoshi's functioning. Really, we should all pool our money to pay for.
So the thing that they have is a lot in not just the Satoshi, but with other ones. It's like, well, what happens if someone commits a murder? It's like, well, we'll make armed guards there to enforce
the law.
It's like you've just made you've made remade government, and you've made a fascist government. Yeah. Like that's like
Well, wasn't there like a running joke is that the main concern of all these guys is the age of consent?
Yeah,
that's like the thing that they actually want to rebel against.
The thing it's like which rule is it that you take issue with? Exactly?
They don't want to pay taxes and they're mad about the age of consent.
That's like the through line.
Yeah,
that is the joke that I remember the most from any H-Bomber guy video is when he's talking about Fallout New Vegas, is he says, and Mr. House is a libertarian, so he wants hyper-capitalist libertarian, so he wants to lower the age of consent. I mean, and
yes.
Has Harris been on this show by the way?
Say what?
Harris, has he been on?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, when we're running Failure to Launch, because he wrote a story for it.
We love H-Bomb.
Yeah, I've chatted with him a little bit. He's a really nice guy.
He's adorable.
I was still awkward when I talked to him because I'm like, I don't, because I'm like, you're fun to talk to, but also I don't want to eat your time because I'm sure so many other people.
Oh no,
are
he's
trying
so
to talk
fucking cool. He's so down to earth. I love him very much. He came by Kala. By the way, everyone, if anyone here's a cartoonist and you're gonna be in California and it's gonna be like in the fall, there's a show and it's called Kala. It's the Comic Arts LA and it fucking slaps and it's the best thing ever. And it's where I met Fable and we decided to maybe try this animation thing out because Fable approached me when I was tabling there and it changed the course of my life and Tracy's life and their life too, and to a lesser extent Kel's life as well. And that so Kala is where dreams come true. So everyone should try and table as Kala at Kala. I believe submissions are still open. And that's my little song and dance for Kala.
I'm debating whether or not to submit because I feel like I could, but also it might be more conducive for me to just help you with the Iron Circus table instead.
Yeah, well, Kel will probably.
I already called dibs on helping with the Iron Circus table.
Yeah, it's kind of it's so weird.
Do we all pile on the Iron Circus table? We just get a really high chair with multiple levels.
Yeah, I should note too, they only give you half a table at Kala, so.
But you need to schmooze. So you do help.
You come here. You have to, Spike. We have to go eat food together.
Yeah, and here's the wild part though. It's no shade. I fucking hate cons. I hate cons so bad. It's I'm super burned out.
Why you need me to run the table while you do.
I'm excited about Kala. I'm I have found excitement in my heart again for attending a convention. Whereas everything else
location with the pottery place right behind it because I want to get really cool plates.
Yeah,
I like the pottery.
I'm really excited for Kala, and I am actually going to make time this year to go to Hollywood Forever, go to the cool cemetery. And take photographs at the cool cemetery. So I kept meaning to do that.
I want to play hooky on my job and just go to the cemetery. That sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, I want to see Liberace's grave.
You want to eat the fluffy pancakes?
I wanted to do that too when we were recording there, but we just had no time.
Yeah,
we were in walking distance and we just couldn't do it.
Yeah, it was just no time. Because it's it is it's not a real vacation. You're there to work, so you can't justify it at the end of the day.
Real vacation, but
I think one of my New Year's goals for 2025, if we get there, air quotes, just fingers and toes crossed, if we get there, is I'm going to start taking an actual real vacation once a year, because I have not ever really done that ever in my adult life.
I committed to a vacation this year via Wasteland Weekend. I actually bought a ticket, so now I'm financially kind of obligated to go, and I haven't gone for the last 2 years, and it kills me every time because it's my break from capitalism for a week.
Is it a real vacation? Are you going to sell stuff there? Or is it a real vacation?
It's you could try to sell things, but the fun part is if you barter for things. So you can bring whatever, including like stuff you make, and then barter for cool things. Like I brought a taxidermy goat head that I got from work when my boss walked in, who was like, "Who wants this?" And I was like, "Me."
Oh man, that would have been me for sure.
And I named it Duncan after my boss, and I traded it away to a guy at Wasteland Weekend in exchange for this big blue barrel and barbed wire looking suitcase thing, which is super cool. And I put my con stuff and things in there. It's just so neat looking. And now whenever I go to Wasteland, he's there with Duncan the goat, and so I get to see the goat like adhere to this guy's car, and he's like, "Yeah, Duncan lives in my garage," and I'm like, "Yay!"
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just the closest I've had to a vacation in my adult life has been if I tack a day on to like a trip in San Diego to go to the zoo or something, and that I guess that's nice, but I really want a vacation where I go someplace fully with the intent to do no work. And
Be a tour.
Yeah, just
folks in chat, I shit you not, you could trade drugs for a goat head out there in Wasteland.
I really want to do that, and I haven't been able to talk myself into doing it. Like maybe next year, if things have settled down a little bit, I can actually allocate the funds to go someplace with no purpose other than to enjoy myself. That'd be nice.
For the growth to slow down so we can take a breath, but no, we keep having to race ahead to get ahead of all the crazy.
Yeah,
it's so nuts.
Yeah. But it is 10:04, everyone, and we usually cap everything off at the 2-hour mark. Everyone feel cool about cutting it here because I have a duck to bake.
I thought you. I thought you were gonna get baked with a duck.
No, I am going to take a duck out of its dry brine, and I'm going to wash it, and I'm going to score it, and I'm going to put it in the oven.
Spike is straight edge for life.
I am very boring. Yeah, don't make it sound cool. I'm just a nerd. But yeah, everybody, thank you so much for coming.
Look, gaze upon my lovely finished page.
Gaze upon Kel's finished werewolf page.
Nice.
But yeah, you have been watching me draw once again Lackada. If you go to lackada.com, HTTP, not HTTPS, because it's just a forward. It's just a forwarding. You can read the 55 pages I have up. Hopefully this page will be up sometime this weekend. You can also go to ironcircus.com to see the Iron Circus Comics website, and that is the website for the largest premier publisher of comics in the American Midwest. You can grab the Lacadaisy books off of Amazon and Bookshop for now. Hopefully when we get the store redesign finished, you can get them on ironcircus.com as well. Thank you for coming. Please like and subscribe and hit the bell so every time we do this, you get a notification.
My name is Kel McDonald. I make comics about gay werewolves in the future that you can read at kelmcdonald.com or on my Patreon, patreon.com/Kel McDonald. I hate social media, so I'm not going to tell you where I am on there. But I do stream on Twitch a lot. I stream every night during Geek Shows. Every Geek Show, it's a mirror stream. Then on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I draw different comic pages and have a different friend to chat with. And on Sundays, I have been playing Baldur's Gate 3. So if you would like to follow along with what I'm describing as AA for murderers, come join me Sunday night with my beautiful tiefling boy committing all the murders that he shouldn't.
What about you, Fable and Tracy?
Go ahead, Fable.
So I'm Fable Siegel. Like I said, I'm showrunner on Lacadaisy for both me and Tracy. YouTube, you just look up Lacadaisy or Lacadaisy comic, and you will find the project that we're working on, which is an adaptation of Tracy's over a decades long work. You can also read my comic, which has been on hiatus for a while, but I do aim to get back to it, which is basically a post-apocalyptic zombie story taking place in New Hampshire, where what if the zombies woke back up? And it's called Umbagog, UMBAGOG comic.com is where you can find it. It is an Abenaki word, so hence the pronunciation and spelling. But yeah, it's basically a lot of body horror and just observations about how people actually behave in the face of like tough shit, instead of the zombie survival guide idea where just everybody gives up and rolls over and dies because the electricity went out for a few days. So but yeah, it's just my my very awkward zombie comic that I decided back in like 2013 to set in 2020. I did. It's not my fault.
2000.
2020, and I swear, now I feel obligated to pick it back up because of everything that's happened.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I very much want to get back to it, but there's like over 100 pages if you want to go check out some really old art of mine and old writing. So there you go. You can find me everywhere as Fable Paint. I'm on Tumblr, Twitter, Blue Sky. That's where I'm most active. So yeah, that's me. Tracy?
I'm Tracy. I'm Lackadaisy person. Draw cats all the time. You can find it at lackadaisy.com, and other social media is all linked there. So probably the easiest place to find stuff. And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. If you like cats, you go check it out. It's really neat.
Everybody, thank you so much. Y'all are a treat and a dream. Thank you for coming by. We will see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Bye, everyone.